Hello, welcome to Priory Paddock. We're into June now and summer is definitely coming our way. The paddock is in one of its in-between phases at the moment. Many of the that were notable in the spring are starting to go over, and in many cases have been overtaken in terms of height by the plants which are going to be a feature of late summer, which have grown taller than the spring flowers, but are not at their full height and certainly aren't in flower yet. On the right of the drive, by the wall as we come into the paddock, I can see the bright blue flowers, rather forget-like flowers, but very bright blue flowers of alkanet on stiff and rather hairy green stems. They're about a couple of feet high, and they will carry on flowering pretty much through the summer. And a little bit further along is the pale green leaves and rather dishevelled looking 4 petals of the great celandine. Coming further along into the paddock and coming up towards the first bush on the right hand side, there's a very interesting clump of quite relatively low growing plants. They're only about a foot high at the greatest, but in amongst some grass here, and these are a very interesting little low rattle, and it's semi-parasitic. It gets parts of its nutriment from the grasses amongst which it grows, and it has yellow, rather pea-shaped flowers and stiffish brown stems with opposite pairs of leaves. But the interesting feature is that behind each of the flowers, the ovary is a little bladder shape, which when the flower goes, once it's fertilized and the flower goes over, these little purses, if you like, dry out with the seeds inside them, and before they open later in the summer to disperse the seed, they dry out and rattle in the wind. So this is called yellow rattle. Very interesting little plant. The bush just to the left of the yellow rattle is one of 3. There are 3 of them here, I can see. There are 1 or 2 more in elsewhere in the paddock, but these have maple type leaves and white flowers, very much like lace hydrangea, with larger flowers, 5-petaled flowers around the outside of the flower head, and smaller ones, very, very much smaller ones in the middle. But I believe in the autumn we will have a nice crop of orange berries here. And looking around, I can see that most of the blossom has gone from the hawthorn trees, but the alder flowers are on the alders. They're just coming into flower at the minute. On the left, between the wall, the drive and the boardwalk, there's a very, very tall row of grasses at the moment. Behind and in amongst the grasses can still be seen lots and lots of buttercups and the pink petals of ragged robin, but the grasses are definitely dominant now. They're much taller than the flowers, They're for about 4 feet tall and in flower themselves. So if anybody suffers from hay fever, this isn't a good time to be visiting the paddock. I can see meadow grass and meadow foxtail and couch grass. There's couch grass by the wall here, but the most obvious the grasses here at the moment is called cock's foot. And if you look at the way in which the florets, the bunches of flowers are arranged on splaying stems from the top of the grass, you can see why it's called cock's foot. These grasses are the food plant for most of our brown butterflies. There's a butterfly. There was a wall butterfly here in the paddock recently, last week, and the caterpillars live at the base of the grass stems in the thatch down at ground level and crawl up the stem once it gets dark and eat the leaves and then disappear back to shelter at ground level again where we're at dawn before the birds come out and have them for breakfast. Moving further on along the paddock, I've come up towards the area just below the well, and I can see a large amount now on both sides of me of the rather ornate Victorian-looking leaves of meadow cranesbill. They're the kind of leaves that appear in many of William Morris's designs, and they have these lovely striped violet lilac 5-petaled flowers and on slightly drooping stems, and when the flower sets, you get a seed pod which is very, very definitely looking like the head of a heron, hence cranesbill. Coming up to the area near the well, but still on the right hand side of the drive by the wall, there are some very large bright pink flowers on fleshy green stems. They look actually a bit like the top of an ice cream cornet full of strawberry ice, and that's red valerian. And amongst it, I can see the distinctive multi-leafleted leaves with tendrils, grasping tendrils at the end that denote a pea plant. And this is common vetch with pairs of little purple flowers, and this is just about finished in flowering, and all the way up the stems, and the stems are anything up to 2 feet or more high, I can see pairs of pods looking for all the world like miniature pea pods sticking out from this flower. There are a number of dramatic looking teasel plants here as well, and quite a lot of red campion. But coming a little bit further along, there is a plant which I'm very pleased with. It has anything from 3 to 5 bright orange yellow flowers in a spray, horizontal spray, and this is when the seeds set. This too has pods, but the pods stick out in this spray arrangement at its feet. This is bird's foot trefoil, and it is the food plant for the caterpillars of the common butterfly, and we were lucky enough to have some blue butterflies in here the other day. Looking up towards the upper part of the site, there is a mass, a solid mass now of green. There are still flowers in amongst the greenery. I can see some red campion and I can see some meadow cranesbill. But by and large, this is a solid mass of greenery. In many cases, I would think, well over 6 feet tall. These are going to be the flowers which flower here in midsummer. I can see in amongst the greenery, I can see meadowsweet, I can see purple loosestrife, and above all I can see great willow herb or codlins and cream, and these have probably will carry on growing for they will grow for at least another month, I would think, but eventually they will flower, and this upper section of the paddock will be a block of colour, but at the moment it's just greenery.